Whenever we buy food from a supermarket, they actually spelt it wrong. It's stupid market. Food inside that building isn't real and it's not there. It's dead. It's not actually going to provide us as a living body that is very smart. Like we can put a lot of junk in it. We're surrounded by toxins and everything, and it usually fights it off, but not for everybody. So whenever you go into a supermarket, you are saying, yes, yes, keep supplying this food to us because we're going to support you because we're too lazy to grow our own or whatever. So rethink, you know, and it's very empowering when you don't need to go to a stupid market very often. So what we've got to remember, remind ourselves when you're having a bad day with, you know, all those kids, that, you know, this is often an expressway to a graveyard to most people. So we've got to look at it differently and actually feed our soul, feed our heart, feed our body, and nurture our kids. You know, we're the people that are meant to be educating kids, so how about we do it? A lot of parents aren't doing it, so we need to, slowly get to the parents via the children, I find is the best way. And look, I can spit out statistics, but if I got time at the end, because I love statistics, of just the amount of sugar, which just feeds cancer, pesticides, herbicides, etc. We'll go through that at the end, just as a bit of a positive ending to motivate you all. For those who don't know me, I've been doing school gardens since 2001. I wrote a book in 2010, Eat Your Garden, Organic Gardening for Homes and Schools. My new DVD has just come out. So the film company, pre the book, wanted to film the program I run, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And I said, no way, I don't want to film. And then when the book came out, they said, no choice, we're coming to film you. So they did, and they followed me for roughly 18 months. And this was a lot less stressful to do than this because they had to put it together, not me. So both those are available today as well. But for now, I'll tell you my story. That's the reason I went into schools. Oh, sorry, this is not on the right program. I just look at that and I didn't want my kids to look like freaks. So I thought, okay, you've studied horticulture, you've studied permaculture, now it's time you actually used it rather than your own backyard. So you're going to have to put up with me fiddling with this. So this is my vision back 10 years ago and it hasn't changed. It's not just about growing a vegetable garden, it's bringing the community in as well. It's about environmental and it's about sustainability. All right, so when I go into a school, I never promote myself. I never go into a school and say, you need me, because that doesn't work. But eventually, after I've been in a school for 12 months, and we normally drag it out for longer, the school has to take over the program, the teachers, so they're going to want it. They have to need it first, not me going in there and telling them that this is the project that they require. So I've normally already got a support team, but you do need at least 3 people, and it really needs to come from the principal. When I've worked in schools and the principal doesn't support it, it just doesn't filter down, and you just don't get that positive vibe from the start, and it makes it harder for me as well. So I meet with the teachers and the principals, so they get an overview of what is required from them when I'm gone. It's like, what are you going to do when I'm gone? It's easy when I'm there, but what about when I'm gone? And of course, they have to find funding because the program runs for 12 months and they have to pay me for a day a week and plus everything else that goes with that. For those that want to do it on their own, it's not saying you can't do it on your own if you haven't got support, but start small. Don't set yourself up for failure. Start small, make it look good, and bring people on board that way. So when I go into a school, especially when the kids don't know me, like here I've turned up and especially on the DVD, you see these kids, they've never met me before. I walk in, 5 minutes later a film crew walks in and they're just staring. So you make it fun, we play some games. So this is a sensory game and it's about the kids not just using their eyes but being aware of other things in nature. I play lots of games to make it fun basically. We have compost games and other things. And then the whole program, the 12-month program, is about empowering the students with the information. It's not about me going in saying, this is what we're going to do, that's where we're going to put it, and that's what you're going to do now. So I go in and show them other examples of schools and community gardens, possible ideas for design, and allow them the freedom to just let their minds go wild with ideas. And so this goes over...
Leonie, do you work with one set group of children? So is there a group of 12 children or 20 kids who work with you, or do you work with different people?
I work with normally about 4 different classes, whole classes at a time, and preferably upper primary. Doesn't quite work with lower primary. We have nice little patterns. But whatever is thrown at me, that's what I have to deal with.
So ideally, if you were starting, you would suggest us to start with what stage?
Year 5s, Year 6s, they're the best. Yeah, because they understand it and they're more likely to take those skills with them later in life. So, so once every student has come up with their own design, then we have the fun of trying to make it into one class design. And so I normally break them into groups and they can only pick one. So for example, if you're one group, you have to agree on just one thing that you want on that final design. So that's when I sort of go along and manipulate their thoughts just a little bit, get the spaceships and stuff all out of there. And then we put that on a big sheet and we go outside and they have to mark out the area. So the area, similar size to this classroom, it varies, depends on schools. Get out the ropes, get out whatever, mark it out, and then they decide, they can see for themselves, okay, that star is not going to fit. You know, we can't move through the garden if that star's there. So it's really good for them to go, oh, that doesn't work, but this does. So we do that with every class. Then I take those designs home and I come up with the final one. So those 4 classes, I do that. I try to include, what is most important. And for most schools, it's a herb spiral, it's an arch. It's often the initials of their school. They're really quite proud of their school. So, for example, now the people that did the DVD did this graphic that doesn't look like this when we do it. So this is Our Lady of the Rosary. I'm still at this school. I've been there over 4 years now and I'm just part of their furniture. So that's okay. So it's an O and an L and an R. The archway, which is the opening to our classroom. A love heart, because one of the teachers had died, so that was important for the kids. This actually should join up. So that's actually the waves to represent the beach. That was just basically what we could fit in that space. And then we ended up putting fruit trees down here, because it was so windy. The beach is just here. But we had 2 years of really, really, really wet weather, so that didn't work. So now the fruit trees are over here. They used to be flowers, now they're fruit trees. So it changes all the time too. It's the beauty of being somewhere for a long time. Okay, so once we've come up with our final design, then we need to get resources. We've already got the funding usually for the whole lot, but that still doesn't mean I'm just going to use the funding because I'm trying to teach the kids about environment. So we talk about that and for them to get whatever they can. And it's also about building communities. So building communities, our 2 big days are our setup day and our harvest day, which comes at the end. Setup day is about the whole school coming together to put that design in place with the kids. So a way to engage parents is obviously send notes home with the kids, keep revving up the kids. Oh, have you spoken to your parents? Are they coming to help? What about your grandparents? Get people excited about the idea. On the day, what works is have a coffee van there at the first thing in the morning. That really works. And cook them lunch. That keeps them there longer then. And we don't need a lot of volunteers. About 20 is ideal over the day, especially I need lots of men at the start to put the rocks in place for the herb spiral and just sort of keep an eye on the kids a bit. I've only got one set of eyes. Okay, then the resources, sorry. Things and people. So we just talked about the people. Different places I get resources is restaurants. I get absolute boxes, polystyrene boxes of preparation scraps from just one restaurant. I could go to as many restaurants as I like. They're beautiful, that's a good one. The tip's getting very expensive at Noosa, isn't that ridiculous? People's backyards, building sites, Yeah, they love me telling those things in Noosa. Local businesses, coffee shops. You know, just, it's amazing what you can pick up. And this is what a setup day looks like. So I come in early, I mark it all up on the ground, and then it's all no-dig gardens, and these are the different things that are going on. Everyone gets involved, any age group, and they just love it. And when you work at a private school, you can tell them they can get dirty. And they do. Herb sparrows, so getting them involved with that. And this was my first ever garden set up, and I was worried no one would turn up. We did this one on a Saturday, and I had 78 volunteers turn up, which I think is more stressful than not having any. But there's that Love Heart garden, and that's still really important to them. And then obviously once we've set up the gardens, going over the, do we plant seeds, seedlings, the variety of food, how big does this little seedling get? Does the zucchini get this big, does it grow up? Just going through all those things that, well, adults haven't got a lot of idea about that, so how are the kids going to know? And teaching them the correct way to plant and different things like that, seeds. That's Our Lady of the Rosary. And, it's not the flashiest looking garden, but they are so proud of it. And it's been trashed so many times by so much rain. We always mix up our planting.
I saw your scarecrow. Our scarecrow's got the school uniform on. Actually, I had to make two. Someone stole the first one.
Yeah. They do that. It's worse when they burn them. And we eat all the time. Most of the schools don't have kitchens. We definitely don't have a kitchen that's associated with a garden at this stage. But we cook all the time, and MasterChef has been so good for that because we often have the playoff. The kids want to do the MasterChef playoff, and sometimes I turn up with recipes, and most cooking stuff's in the back of my car. But you just let them go, and yeah, they have bizarre combinations like fennel with chocolate mint with, kale and da-da-da, but, and they'll discuss it. They'll all taste each one with their plates, and they're really complementary to each other, and they'll give it a go. They're fantastic. Summer's the big time where people go, oh, what are we going to do, with the gardens? Put in a green manure crop. It's the best thing. It's going to, break up your cycle, it'll do your soil building, and not have your soil washed away, in our case, with rain. Schools always panic. Coming back term one, the garden's a mess, the garden's a mess.
A lot of schools do actually have vacation care within the school grounds, and in the school where my daughter goes, and that's who looks after the garden during school holidays. They kind of, they roster them on to go and give them water or do the weeds or all that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be a big problem on the holidays.
No, but often it's hot too, and no one really wants to be in the garden. It's just an option of when, a good way to do your soil building program, and also when they come back, first, second week of term one, all the students can come out in the garden, they can all come out with their scissors, and they've all got a job like that, and it's just a fantastic way to start term two, and they're hot, I don't know who they are, they're all a bit wild, and it's great, and then you leave it for a couple of weeks, and they're shots I brag about. They're my nodules. So that's a good green manure crop. This is summertime crop appropriate to our area. So this is the mug beans, and it's been inoculated with a mung cowpea, and we put millet in as well. But if you haven't got money, or if you want to bulk it up a bit more, I put a wild birdseed mix in. So that's not going to give you the nitrogen, but it's going to give you the bulk. So this is another school which had a major problem with scrub turkeys. So we had to put this massive structure over it. The disadvantage of that is you're blocking out your birds. So you solve one problem, but you've caused another one. Get a lot more pests in there. But we would have had nothing if we didn't do that. And putting nets on every day just doesn't work. That school always gets vandalised, so they're always ripping the nets. It's the only school I have the problem. So setting up, having a variety of foods, and And putting in foods that the kids aren't used to. Put in your bitter foods, your foods for health. In my book, I've worked with Isabel Shippard, she's very well known on the Sunshine Coast, but should be known Australian-wide for her fabulous books on herbs for life, I think it's called. And she worked with me to do the list of the 10 most important herbs that students should have, which aren't your normal herbs for their brain. And what's that?
Eden seeds, if you Google Eden seeds, you'll find them.
Oh, okay. Eden seeds, yeah. Thank you.
And I also sell, I think all these seeds are organic.
And so what?
Their seeds are organic.
Yes, yes. Thank you. And it should always be putting in organic seeds, but we sort of spoke about that last time. So at the start we buy in a lot of things because we haven't set up the resources. We might have made a compost or whatever, but it's really important that we've got to think, or I've got to think long term, where that money's run out and we should be more sustainable. So you'd be familiar with a lot of these things, your worm farms, your compost systems and different compost systems.
What's the one on the right?
Is that the worm bin? The blue one? Yes. Yeah, you can get fancier sort of worm bins these days, so that look like that. And at one school we've got the massive, I can't remember how many litres they are, like they're massive worm bins like this. They've got 6 of those set up on a platform, and this is your Mundy State School. It's right near the market. So the market brings up all the scraps. They provided the bins, they bring up all the scraps, so these worms are fed all the time. The school uses all the resources from there and sells it back. They have a stall at the market, so they learn about marketing and they get the money from that. They sell the worm juice, the worm castings, and yeah, so it was great.
What sort of bins are they?
They're like these, but they're bigger, industrial size ones, like they're massive. Yeah, they're commercial bins, but they're perfect. Absolutely. I mean, what a great relationship. The Yamundi market wants to be seen as more environmental. Here was a school close by. School, all it has to do is take the stuff out of it. Brilliant.
So did Prince have drawers to take out the castings?
Oh, take them from the top. Yeah, so we just move aside the worms and then take the castings out. And they've got the tap underneath for the juice. So, yeah, look at who can partnership, especially when people these days are trying to reduce their resources. Oh, and do kids like gardening? Will they eat the food? There's some little shiny faces. You know, and the fight's always on. I remember getting petrol the other week, or a couple of months ago now, and I don't know where kids get all the money from. Here they were buying those Red Bull drinks or whatever, those sugar, and then buying all these lollies. And this is 7:30 in the morning, and then I drive into my one of my other schools that's on the DVD, and here's all the kids picking off a snow piece. Oh, do we make a difference? And the other thing, because I'm about building community and celebration as well, is having harvest days. Now, every school embraces it differently depending on the support I get. This school went with an Indian theme and just the cooking classes were involved. Our Lady of the Rosary is my pride and joy. This is last year's harvest day. We've just had one this day. Because I've been there so long, it starts to infiltrate the whole school and the whole school community. So the first year when we had a harvest day, it was just the 4 classes I cooked with, and that was all good. And we eat off plates, leaves. We grow the leaves or source them from friends' house, haven't got enough, so that goes in the compost or the chooks. And I think we had dancing that first time. The next year, when I said to the main teacher I work with, okay, who wants to be involved for harvest day this year? She came back and said, every teacher wants to be involved. I went, that's 400 kids. And I went, I can only do that if you promise me I've got a strong community backup. And that school I have. And so let's move forward a couple of years. This year was similar to these pictures here. Every single classroom becomes a kitchen because we have no kitchen. So the parents bring in whatever's required for the recipes that are pre-decided. The parents go off and buy whatever things we need from the supermarket that can't be sourced within our garden. And the different classes decide on the activities for the day. All I do is organise Costa for the day, pick him up, we harvest the food, one knife, one parent, because they're big knives, and just make sure everyone's harvesting all the food that we need. The rest of the day, all I do is float. It's the least stressful day for me, and that's the way it should be for a change. And I remember everyone had cooked the food. Here I am, I've got the dance, there's dancing, there's singing going on, there's scarecrow making competitions going on. We had pumpkin rolling competitions, we had gumboot throwing because it was the year of the farmer, had a tractor, a lot of people had never seen a tractor, we had baby animals. For a couple of months leading up to it, under the principal's guidance, the principal is brilliant. They had been designing a bike to pump the water from the water tank to go in the garden, but they were having races to see how many litres, who could get the most litres into garbage bins. And I just stood back, I had to go up and check on everyone, and I just stood up there and went, this is it. This is what I want. This is the perfect example of what I wanted back in 2001. And yes, it's happened at different degrees, but you know, here all these parents just going, wow, wow, and the kids just having a ball. So, and we have like a bucket of rubbish by the end of the day. Just so what? No, I'm sorry, but it was really wonderful.
Do you grow condiments?
What's that?
Condiments?
Oh, so that's a good story as well.
Okay.
Because I hate disposable, I absolutely despise disposables. So the teachers and I had a competition who could buy the cheapest forks from op shops and garage sales and etc. So I was going to make a newspaper article saying Sunshine Coast all forked out, but because we have to have 400 forks or 450 forks, and that box just stays at my house, or some stays at schools. We've got plates, cups, forks, knives, stuff that we just use every year and paid on average 5 cents for every fork and every plate. The plates we needed for serving, plus restaurants gave me stuff. And it was a great exercise after last year when it was the first time, the 400, was that actually I went into the supermarket and priced how much disposables are. I could not believe how much they were. And to actually go through that exercise with the kids saying, well, how much would it cost if it cost, $4 for 20 forks or whatever, and to actually look at that exercise saying, by us buying it, when we bought from an op shop, that money went to the poor people, back into the community. We haven't put anything into the tip, into landfill, and we're going to keep using it. And next year we don't have to buy any because it's already there. And it was a really good exercise, especially the schools right on the coast that I work with. They're more affluent, disposable type schools. So every harvest day is different. This one down here, that's a country school. I got a chef in to cook with us for that one, and since then he's gone, I'll cook at any school, so that's fantastic. They raise the chickens for that day because it's an ag school as well. So they went through from chicks to whatever. We were finalists for the paddock to plate for Queensland. Darwin bet us. And that was just a great experience for those country kids to go through that, to work with a chef. It was so foreign for them. Yeah, so just another way to do it. Each school's different. Oh, I just snuck these ones in, a bit off, just to give you some other ideas. I've just started to work for a community garden, and it's under the umbrella of United Synergies. So it's all groups that are at risk, but they've all worked. Like, I didn't know how I'd go because I've not worked with teenagers before, but I'm just loving it. So initially we started this spiral and we bought those Besses in just to get up and going, but it's the people that live in that area too haven't got a lot of money, so I don't want to be buying in more things to show a community garden. So I'm teaching them to get resources for nothing and what we can do with them. And these are the boys working away. I've got a, what do you call rock guys? Stonemason. I've got him there at the moment teaching the boys how to do rock walls, and they're just loving it. And yeah, so we've got hay bales donated, so we're doing hay bale gardens with them. We've got teenage mums, so we've made a scarecrow. It's work and no one's vandalised the place. And that's the plate of food we ate last year at that harvest festival. So I sort of just chucked those community gardens ones in there. So it's just, obviously we had to buy some of that stuff, but lots of healthy food in there and exposing the kids to new foods as well. And then the plate goes into the chooks or the compost. That's me. That's me, you know that. And also I've got a competition at the moment, that's nice and blurry, but go on my website. I've got bookmarks, business cards and stuff all up there where you can win a whole heap of prizes. And that's, you just got to send in your best garden tip, and that's till March next year. And I haven't got internet, so you can't look at the trailer. But yeah, so there's different ways to do it, and each school I've had to do it a little bit differently depending on the support, the resources, all that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, it's still teaching the kids and exposing them to fresh food, and possibly even changing their direction in life with, you know, hopefully they'll go on and become gardeners, because I can't do it forever.
When you start the school, is it like a contract, like a beginning and an end contract, or
What?
they bring you on for a day a week, or?
Yeah, I normally go in for 1 day a week. I give them a quote. It's for 1 day a week for 12 months. But one of the reasons I also get them to get recycled goods in and second-hand and donations, so we can drag that 12 months out even longer. You know, on paper I'm there for 12 months, but I encourage them to.
So that's the only way you work? You don't maybe do one-off kind of consultations or anything like that?
I'm starting to do more of that. I've just been out west to Roma, and so I'll go out west a few more times to get them up and going. There's a couple of reasons I've decided to do that. It's now very hard for independents to get funding, and that's why it's really good to have this conference, because us independents need to pull together again and work out how we can fight for some money. And also when I talk at garden expos and things like that, I get a lot of people that are way out in the country that say they just need help.
Especially if you're in Noosa, you know.
There's only so many schools I can do. I've done 20, so I'm running out of schools in the area as well. Yeah, and I thought, well, you know, I want to help these more remote communities, so I am starting to think that maybe, and Roma was a good test. I've been at Blackhall and now I've been at Roma. I thought, okay, I actually quite enjoy it. It's quite challenging, but yeah, so maybe I'm going to start doing more of that. Or if I go into a school, it's more for a day, it's more for training or something. Train the teachers, train parents. Yeah, so there's lots of different things. Hello, Dan.
You're obviously a super woman. Do you have like an offsider thing?
Oh, beautiful Di that did all the photos for my book, who was she was my offsider last year. We were a real team, like you and Dan, because I had 6 schools last year, but I'm down to 1 school a fortnight. Like, that's, yeah, and the community garden. Even the schools that want me can't get funding. They all just get told to go and get SA funding. So, yeah, so now it's back to me, and I really miss having her there. And it was awful because, you, as you would know, it takes so long to train someone up, and she brought that artistic side, like where I've got my games that I make. She had started to do this, you know, she'd go, I think I can do another set for you, Leonie. And we were starting to work on all these resources that we were going to put together and stuff like that. But
when you say you do cooking in the classrooms on sort of harvest days in each class, is that hot cooking or just cold? So what sort of heating equipment do you use, and is there a problem with insurance and health and safety and all that sort of stuff?
As I say, this school, OLR, like some schools, and another school which I had 2 harvest days in 1 week, and you know the other school was pushing to have similar numbers because they knew what this other Catholic school did. It's like, you've never had a harvest day, and you want me to, you know, to perform, like cook with 300 kids or whatever, and then they turn. I didn't take the call over the weekend, which was a very wise idea, because they were ringing up to say that another 2 classes were going to get involved, but the children couldn't use knives. Yes. I ignored that. How are we going to cook without the children using knives? So anyway, no one lost their fingers, and they all ate. But so that school was every school's different. OLR, brilliant principal. We're allowed to cuddle the kids. wild things like that. They're allowed to do cartwheels, throw balls. They're about to get goats in the school. I don't know where they're going to put them, but they're going to put them there because he wants to see them exposed to animals. And he's just a brilliant principal that just goes, look, these kids need life skills. So we bring in the fry pans, we bring in whatever's needed. Parents are there, teachers are there, show them some responsibility, but you would not get away with that at a lot of schools. You got to know what you're allowed to deal with.
Do you have one or two harvest days? Just have the one harvest day?
The one big festival, yeah. Normally term 3 because before it gets too hot. Yeah, but it depends on the school. Yeah, that's right.
Seedlings, when the kids are growing the seedlings, what happens just over a weekend and watering them? Do they take them? And what? Yes.
Okay, so our soils, I'm big into soils, so we have really good soils. We have a lot of things within that soil that hang on to moisture. So hopefully if they've been watered Friday, they should survive to Monday, but if we just put them in and it's going to be really hot weather, we might make little shade things for them, so put bracken up or put little teepees over them and weave some little grasses through, or a parent comes in and waters. Normally a parent, yeah. So.
They can get access outside the school building.
No. But once again, that. No, I've never put in a watering system. I want them to. Well, I just think they need to learn that. Well, for a start, because we've got good soils, they don't need to be watered all the time, and it's actually quite good therapy to get the kids out there and water and realise that you don't water like this, but you actually have to stand there and count, and bigger plants need longer, and this is a moisture meter and stuff like that.